Happy Monday, PMI Wellness community. Matt Green again here, bringing to you your next Education Monday topic. And today we're going to be talking about range of motion and training. How much is enough? So diving right in, the two big questions that we want to answer today is what is the ideal range of motion for training, specifically on the resistance training side of things? And of course, are there benefits to range of motion? And I will cut to some actual exercises here at the end of this video. So it is key for optimal development. You train the greatest range of motion possible. And of course, we talked about range of motion in our flexibility and mobility class this past Friday. And one of the biggest things you want to make sure is your muscles can span that entire range of motion that the joint is capable of. That's how it's able to move. And so by limiting that range of motion, it can make you stronger through that shorter amount, but you neglect fully developing the muscle's potential, increasing that chance of injury. The goal of any movement should be to achieve the greatest range of motion possible in the safest manner possible. And I want you to pay attention to is that bottom right picture where you see an individual kind of squatting but rounding their back excessively in order to achieve a huge range of motion capable. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the safest. We want to make sure that we get the greatest range of motion possible, similar to that middle picture, with the safest manner we can. And training an entire range of motion for muscle increases the strength across the entire contractile ability, meaning that you're going to get strong through the entire range versus just a limited amount. And so when it comes to day-to-day living and everything, we want to make sure that we're training and controlling that entire range as much as possible to get the biggest and best benefit when it comes to muscular development. Now, there are benefits to reducing that range of motion, but they are specific to either performance or specifically injury. So when it comes down to it, it all depends. Performance and health considerations can be made when it comes to reducing range of motion. I want you to think about sprinters. Sprinters don't necessarily need to do the lowest squat possible to improve their overall performance. It can help from a mobility standpoint, but in reality, quarter squats can be actually very beneficial for them, or even high jumpers or anything else, because the majority of their time spent in training is going to be hinging on that quarter squat ability. So the stronger they can get in that range, the more performance they're going to actually see. And of course, previous injuries can keep us from a limited range of motion that a joint is capable of because of that previous injury. So we want to make sure that we're able to train in the greatest range of motion that that joint that you have is capable of doing. So don't push it too far if it's not going to keep it very safe. And of course, the overall goal should be assessed to determine the range of motion possible. At the end of the day, we want to make sure, again, that we're training that full range versus just limiting it for the sake of feeling stronger or something else, because it's going to reduce the overall performance in the gym. There is no one size fits all, but limited range of motion without a good reason is going to limit your overall development. So, as I conclude this, I'm going to segment it over to a couple exercises I want to kind of show you just to walk you through. All right, so to round out this video, I want to at least demonstrate two exercises, one that was pictured in the actual PowerPoint, and then the other one that's a bicep curl that I want to kind of go a little more in depth in terms of what range of motion and training actually kind of looks like. So for a squat, for instance, turning to my side, a lot of people when they're squatting down, they're only going to go to right about here, right above parallel, because this keeps it easy. As long as I stay here, my strength is going to be much higher if I'm staying in this area versus if I go all the way down and come all the way back up. It's a very humbling experience when you go through full ranges of motion. But again, there are certain types of muscle fibers within the muscles themselves, like quads and hamstrings for this lower body, that I'm never going to actually hit if I stay this high up. So we want to make sure as we actively work our way down into full ranges of motion, we're going to fully develop that muscle. Same thing for bicep curls. I see this one butchered all the time. People curl up and they stop right here. Of course, this is easier to handle heavier weight because we're only going through the strongest range of motion capable of our biceps at the time. But we're missing this entire area down here. And we don't like to look weaker than we actually are. But it is going to help fully develop a muscle as long as we go through that full range of motion. So next time you're in the gym, make sure you're checking yourself for that optimal range of motion and talk to one of my fitness specialists if you have any questions. Until next Monday, enjoy the rest of your day.